Okay, let's unpack this. In a world, well, awash with choices, especially when you're looking for a premium dive watch, how do you even find something that, truly stands out?
Yeah, it's tough.
We're often spoiled, but so many designs feel like echoes of the past. It's hard to find real innovation.
It really is.
Yeah.
The whole genre feels incredibly saturated sometimes.
Yeah.
You have countless brands, old ones, new ones, and so many are drawing heavily from historical blueprints.
Right.
Truly novel ideas, watches that really forge their own path. They're genuinely rare. Sifting through it all takes effort.
Well, today we're doing a deep dive into exactly that kind of watch, the Sinn U50.
Ah, the U50.
Yeah. When it landed in 2020, our sources called it nothing short of a revelation.
Yeah.
This 500-meter German diver, it didn't just make a splash, it immediately set a new bar for dive watches under $3,500.
And our mission today, really, is to figure out how the U50 did that.
Exactly.
We need to dissect its uncompromising design, its incredibly robust construction, and maybe the most surprising part, how well it actually wears. Think of this as your shortcut to understanding why this watch has such a dedicated following, why it still holds its own so strongly.
Okay, so the U50, it came out in 2020, right?
Right.
Building on the bigger U1 design from 2005.
That one.
But this smaller version was called a revelation. What was it about the U50 that really set it apart from the U1 and from everything else at the time?
Well, what the U50 managed to do, really for the first time, was take that very distinct, modern Sinn design language.
Yeah, the U1 style.
Exactly, which the U1 established.
Yeah.
And make it genuinely approachable for a much wider audience. It just hit this rare sweet spot in size and design.
A sweet spot? How so?
It's found this kind of perfect balance, proportions, presence on the wrist. Frankly, it's the kind of balance you usually have to look back to the 90s to find. It just worked.
And what really strikes me about Sinn, the brand itself, is how committed they are to their core thing.
Steadfast.
Yeah. In an era where so many traditional tool watch brands are chasing luxury, constantly moving upmarket, adding polish and bling, Sinn just stays defiantly committed to what they do.
That's a great way to put it.
And 4 years later, the U50's appeal hasn't faded one bit. It's still incredibly relevant. It didn't chase trends, and maybe that refusal to chase trends is a huge part of why it's still so magnetic.
If you step back and look at the bigger picture, the U50 genuinely doesn't feel like anything else out there.
Right.
Its design isn't trying to be a vintage reissue. It's not digging through old catalogs. It's pure Sinn doing his own thing in Germany for over 25 years.
That independent spirit.
Absolutely. That drive to create a distinct identity when everyone else is doing heritage,
Right.
that's central to why it's unique.
And it's not random design, is it? There's a clear lineage here.
Oh, for sure.
You just have to look at the original Sinn EZM1. That watch really set the template for this kind of precise functional thinking.
The blueprint.
Exactly. No decision felt accidental. Tiny things, like the color of the date window maybe, to big things like putting the crown at 4 o'clock or how a chronograph is mounted. That deliberate engineering led straight to the U1 and then perfectly scaled down to the U50.
Every single element serves a purpose. It's pure function.
Which makes you wonder.
Why don't we see more of it?
Yeah. Why isn't this more common, this uncompromising approach?
Well, there have been other watches, from recent history. Things like the IWC GST Aquatimer, maybe,
Oh, yeah. Good example.
or the Zenith Rainbow Flyback, even the first-gen Omega Seamaster 300. They all had that potential, right, to carve out a unique, purely functional space.
But they often got repurposed.
Kinda, yeah. They were often repurposed to better suit the needs of brands with more premium aspirations. They ended up sacrificing a bit of that raw tool watch feel to chase broader appeal or, a higher price point.
And that's precisely why the U50, in many ways, still feels like a watch from the 90s.
And you mean that positively?
Absolutely, in the best possible way. It's got this neat, tidy case. There's no sign of bloat anywhere. You won't find frivolous stuff. No polished chamfers, no shiny ceramic bezels, no unnecessary decoration. This watch is just straightforward and down to business. Function first, durability above all else.
And that unwavering focus on function translates directly to its incredible durability.
The 500-meter rating.
Yeah, 500 meters, which is substantial for any dive watch, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But the real trick is packing all that into such a compact case.
Right. Usually 500 meters means a huge chunk of metal.
Exactly. That kind of water resistance often comes in much larger, sometimes pretty unwieldy watches.
And the materials. They're fundamental to that toughness, aren't they?
Totally. The case is made from German submarine steel.
Yeah.
Seawater-resistant. Just the name sounds tough.
It does.
But Sinn doesn't stop there. They put it through their signature Tegiment chemical process.
Right, the hardening.
Yeah, it creates this extra protective layer. And it's not just a surface coating, it's a deep hardening treatment that makes the case incredibly resistant to scratches and just, daily life.
And does it actually work? Or is it just marketing?
Well, that's where it gets interesting. Our sources point out that the reviewer's own U50, after getting its fair share of abuse, still looks brand new.
Wow. Okay.
That's a pretty powerful testament, right? It shows Sinn's tech isn't just a bullet point on a spec sheet. It's genuinely superior protection that gives you real peace of mind.
Okay, so the design, the toughness, you can see that. But the feel of the watch, the size and shape on your wrist, our source says it must be worn to be fully appreciated.
The magic, yeah.
It reminds me of how people talk about, like, the Rolex Explorer 2 Conviction 16570, how its case just has this quality you can't quite capture in numbers, but it just wears so much better than you'd expect.
Precisely. It's officially a 41mm watch, measured at the bezel.
Okay.
But the U50 wears like a 39mm watch. That's the common feedback.
How does that work?
A lot of it probably comes down to its relatively short lugs. The lug-to-lug distance is a very manageable 46mm, and it's only 11mm thick.
That is slim for a 500-meter diver.
It really is. And it has this nicely rounded transition to the case back. It just nestles into the wrist with ease. It makes it incredibly comfortable for a watch with these kinds of specs. It wears smaller than its numbers suggest.
It's so interesting when measurements don't tell the whole story.
Right.
Like, compare it to another great watch, the Tudor Pelagos 39. The U50 somehow feels smaller on the wrist.
Even though the P39 is technically smaller at the bezel, 40mm?
Yeah, the U50 is only a millimeter thinner overall, but our sources think it's more about the shape. Sinn's smooth, sort of organic transitions versus the sharper, more angular edges on the Tudor.
Those subtle design choices, the flowing lines, they make a huge difference in how a watch actually sits and feels on your wrist.
Absolutely.
And don't forget the crown placement. The U50's crown is at 4 o'clock, so it tucks away nicely.
Compared to the Tudors at 3.
Right. So when you factor that in, the actual footprint on the wrist ends up being much closer than you might think just looking at the specs. It's a perfect example of why you shouldn't put too much stock into the measurements of a watch on paper.
You really have to try it on.
You really do. You have to experience it to get it.
Okay, so it wears incredibly well. An exceptional day-to-day option, apparently. But let's look at its face. What's the dial like? What's its personality?
The dial design. It's described as near brutalist in presentation.
Brutalist, okay.
Yeah, it's super legible, no question. But maybe it won't pair as gracefully with as many outfits as, say, a Pelagos 39 or an Omega Seamaster.
Right, it's more specific.
It's a very specific, stark look, prioritizing immediate readability over maybe aesthetic versatility, which is very Sinn.
But that direct no-nonsense thing is part of its charm, isn't it?
Definitely.
The hands are called towering blocks, ensuring a highly legible dial, and it's helped by that flat sapphire crystal that, frankly, disappears.
Oh, the crystal is amazing.
Seriously, in the right light, you'd swear it wasn't even there, which is a huge practical plus, especially if you compare it to, say, the Sinn EZM1. Again, its domed crystal can be an Achilles heel for glare sometimes.
Yeah, reflections could be an issue there. That flat crystal on the U50 is pure function.
And it gives it a unique look.
For sure. This whole unusual design brings a truly unique personality to the table, especially with that distinctive bezel.
Ah, yes, the bezel. It's captive, right? Held on by screws.
Exactly. Held firmly in place. And you can get it in black. Sinn calls that SDR, for the black rotating bezel, or just standard steel.
And the markings pop.
They really do. They're not just printed on. They're done in reliefs, cut into the bezel with black and red infill. It helps them just pop off of the surface. The reviewer says this bezel is unlike anything else out there, and it kind of gets pulled into the more you look at it. It's got depth.
Okay, so under the hood, what's powering this functional machine? What movement are we talking about?
Inside, it's the Sellita SW300-1 movement.
Sellita, okay.
Yeah, it's maybe fairly under the radar for some folks, but is well regarded, reliable, and importantly, quite slim, which helps with that 11mm thickness. It runs at 4 Hz standard, 28,800 beats per hour, so you get a nice smooth seconds hand. But the power reserve, 42 hours. It's adequate, but our source calls it pretty meh.
Yeah, compared to the 70 hours we see a lot now.
Exactly. It's standard, perfectly fine, but not exactly cutting edge in that department.
So thinking about this, using that fairly affordable movement, as the source puts it, That seems like a deliberate choice, right?
Oh, absolutely strategic.
It's precisely what lets Sinn do what they do best, focus their resources, their engineering, their money on that amazing case construction and design at such an accessible price point.
That's the trade-off. They prioritize the external build, the durability, the unique design, while they deliver all that incredible case tech without pushing the watch into a much higher price bracket.
It keeps it true to its tool watch roots. It's about value for that specific kind of engineering.
Exactly. And zooming out again, the U50's place in the market is also unique because Sinn itself still has this slightly mysterious quality about it, at least in the US.
How so?
Well, they're sold exclusively through one retailer, Watch Buys, which is fine, but it hasn't necessarily helped build broad enthusiast relationships or get wide market exposure.
Right, no big ad campaigns.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
This direct distribution model plus minimal traditional marketing definitely adds to its niche, almost cult following appeal.
That's an interesting point about the niche appeal, building a reputation almost entirely on word of mouth within the community.
Yeah, it's very organic.
But I wonder, for a brand with such strong engineering chops, does relying only on that niche market, especially with exclusive retail, maybe limit their reach? Or is that precisely the strategy, to lean into that underground authenticity?
It feels very deliberate. Their reputation, like you said, comes almost entirely from owners and the community. And if you do a little digging, the lore goes surprisingly deep. You find stories about their testing, the origins of the submarine steel, the Tegiment process. But yeah, despite that dedicated following, it's still kind of a niche product to the market at large. The watch nerds know it, but it's not a household name.
Maybe that's the point.
Could be. Sinn is a German brand with a really enviable history, a lineage of some all-time great watches. And crucially, they've remained true to its original ethos. They aren't making moves upmarket by engineering more flash into their stuff.
No unnecessary luxury creep.
None. The U50 is just a pure monument to the idea of uncompromising functionality. It is, through and through, a tool watch. No apologies.
And the proof seems to be in the reviewer's assessment. Our source, who handles these kinds of watches constantly, concludes that very few have made an impression quite like the U50.
High praise indeed.
Calling it one of, if not the best, dive watches to be released in the past 10 years. That's exceptional for a watch in this crowded space.
It really is. So what does this all boil down to for you, the listener? The Sinn U50 is just this compelling example of a brand that deliberately prioritizes robust, functional engineering and a truly distinctive design over chasing fleeting trends or trying to be a luxury item.
Yeah.
It offers fantastic value, uncompromising performance, and just an undeniable presence on the wrist. It's built to do a job, and it does it incredibly well without any fuss or unnecessary extras.
It's been a fascinating deep dive into what makes a tool watch genuinely cool-like, and it's a powerful case study in how a brand can build such a loyal following purely on the strength of its product, even without those huge marketing budgets.
Quality and intentional design really do speak for themselves sometimes.
They do.
Which leaves us with a question for you to think about. In your own experiences, maybe looking beyond watches, what other niche brands or products have you stumbled upon that sort of defy conventional marketing?
Good question.
Brands that built their reputation purely on uncompromising functionality, fostering that deeply loyal community around them, kind of like Sinn has done with the U50. How do you uncover those hidden gems that really stand out from the crowd?